Okay, Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. We're gonna continue with chapter 12 about communication. So under communications, there are five major functions importance for communication in the groups and in the organizations. These are the five major functions of communication: management, feedbacks, emotional sharing, persuasions, information exchange. So basically, communication acts to manage member behavior in several ways. For example, organizations have authority hierarchies and they provide formal guidelines for employees to follow. And employees who do or perform the job descriptions and follow to comply to company policy and work groups that tease and harass employee who do small, too much or too little jobs, consider as indirectly communicating and managing employee behavior. So communication also can create feedbacks by clarifying to the employees what they must do and how well they are doing it and how they can improve the performance. Basically, when we talk about communication, we want to improve by using communications. Be able to improve the organizational effectiveness. That's the purpose of communication, so that the effectiveness of the organization can be enhanced. So formation of the goals, feedback on progress, and reward for desired outcome all actually requires communication, and which also could stimulate motivations among employees. So communication within the group is a fundamental mechanism by which members show satisfaction and frustrations, and therefore communication provides for emotional sharing of feeling and fulfillment of social needs. Even though communications in the organization is basically important for effectiveness of organizations and for and effectiveness of job performance, is actually also can provide emotional sharings or feeling among employees and between employees and managers and so on. This also fulfill the social needs, because when employees go to organization, they also need to have social needs, interaction, sharing of feeling with the other employees. So like emotional sharing, persuasion also can be good and can be bad, because of course persuasions to do bad things is considered bad. Persuasions to do good thing is considered good. So there will be some good and bad in anything. Depend on us. We know which one is good, which one is bad. So basically, when we want to talk about communication in the organization, we have to look from a good perspective, or from the elements that could increase or good benefit to the organization. Even though we know that even textbook mentions that persuasion can benefit or harm an organization, but if we consider only the harmful for the organizations, by not so using persuasions, then it's not good, because persuasion also can give benefits to organizations. So the final functions, this when we talks about this is relating to the sharings to persuasions. This one is relating to emotional. So this the functions of emotional sharing, this the fourth function of persuasions, and this last function of information exchange. Normally when people talks about communication, we talks about information exchange to facilitate decision making, to improve performance. So communication provide informations individuals and the group needed to make good decisions by transmitting the data needed to identify and evaluate choices. So I give these pictures to indicate that communications is important to to exchange information from one to another. So this is actually the communication process, as you can see, start from sender and end from receiver. But in the process, sender sometimes when they want to convey their thoughts, their feeling, they must encode the message, because without encoding the message, the receiver or the audience will not know what in their thoughts, because human being cannot reach other people's minds. So sender must encode the message in terms of either oral, either written, or other body language. So sender must encode the message that they want to send to the receiver, and this from sender to receiver is called encoding, and this encoding message will pass through the channel can be mediums, TV, or written book, and so on. And this message so at the channel there will be some noises, and depend on the noises, the strength of the noises. The highest the strength, the highest of the noise, the more message that going to be sent to receiver will be disrupted. So the message that's being encoded by the sender will be sent to the receiver, and receiver, in order to understand, receiver has to decode the message. So here is a process is encoding from the sender, is encoding from the receiver to interpret the message is called decodings or decodes. So the feedbacks can only be given by the receiver if the receiver be able to understand the message that been sent by the sender by interpreting the message in terms of decoding. If the receiver could could understand the message, the feedback will be easy, that will be clear. If not, there will be problem. So I put in this slide so that easy for you to read. For example, the sender, that means someone who gonna send the message, who initiate the message, they by encoding a talks, putting their talks into a certain thing. For example, either through spokens, either through writtens, and so on. So the message is actually the actual physical product from the source. So sender is actually the source, and the medium is the channel, and other formal or informal channel like TV or wherever, that's considered channel. Formal channel are established by the organizations. Let's say the organization perhaps provides email, so that's considered formal, or some consider like social media is considered informal. So can be spontaneous image as a response to individual voice choices such as telephones or message memo, and so on. So the receiver is the person who the message is directed. That means who gonna receive the message, who will first translate the symbol, because when the sender send the message to the receiver need to understand the message. So the receiver will translate the symbol into understandable form. For example, if the message sent through returns, the receiver will try to read and then translates. If it is in different language, if it is in the same language, try to understand the message. This what is called decoding the message. So noise represent the communication barrier. So in the process of sending from sender to receiver, there will be some noises. Noises mean the barrier, or maybe it's not just a physical noise like you hear the sounds or anything. It can be different kind of noises, can be barriers to understandings, and so on. So barriers may distort the clarity of the message, such as perceptual problem. That's what it said. Noise can be perceptual distortions or perceptual problem. For example, because of too loud or too slow. If it is spoken, if it is written, the handwritten may not be really clear. Some students, even when they wrote, their handwriting is very bad, that cannot be read. So that's considered noise in interpreting the talks or the information that the sender want to send. So this when the clarity of the message is distorted or problem with the clarity, it lead to the feedback loop. Feedback loop, that means there will be some problem to give clear feedbacks, to give a full feedbacks to the message. So feedback is to the check of how successful the transformations of message from sender to receiver according to originally is intended. So that's basically the process involved in communications. So there are different types of communications. Can be downward communications in the organizations, can be upwards, can be lateral. So downward communications is the communication that flow from one level to the lower level. So when we talks about downward communication, that's mean from the top level to the lower level. So the purpose is downward communication. Normally, when it is from the top to the lower level, the managers or the superior normally when they communicate to the lower level, they normally want to assign the goal, want to assign the task, want to provide instructions, want to communicate policy and procedure, and also to provide feedbacks. So downward communication must explain the reason why decision was made, or whatever decision was made, or whatever policy been done by the organization will be conveyed to the lower level employees in the organizations or lower level people in the organization. So normally that's what we call downward communication. So explanations increase employee commitment and support of decision. That's why it is important for the managers to explain or to convey or to lecture to explain to their employees or subordinates. Normally, downward communications is one-way nature because normally the superior giving information, giving order to the employees below the line. So the one problem with the downwards communication is one-way nature. Upward communication is where the flow of the communication is from a higher level in the organizations. Sorry, flow to a higher level in the organization from lower level. So it starts from the subordinates or from employees at the lower level and then move up to the higher level. So I give the example here. It's like employees at the lower level in the organizations and moving up. So this considered as a upward communication. These are downward communication. So normally upward communications is to provide feedback to the higher ups, to the managers or to the CEO, to person top management, for example, to inform about the progress, to relay current problems that they may experience. Effective upward communications. So for the because level top managements, they are normally very busy. They don't have time to entertain all the lower level employees comments or critics or whatever complaints. So communications, upper level communication should be communicate in headline. That's mean in short summaries, not in paragraph. If you give very text, for example, assignments just to complain about the environments or the working conditions, maybe they will not hear, or maybe they don't have time to read. So communication should be upward communication should be done in headline. That means short summaries, not paragraph or long explanation. So, and also the communication should be supported by the headline should be supported by actionable items, such as what you believe should happen. That means you provide your ideas, what you believe that should happen. And this also you need to prepare an agenda to make sure you use your boss attention well. So because boss are very busy, sometimes there also ego from the top managements. They wouldn't listen to the employees, especially lower level, if they have so many things, tiny little thing they want to complain. So need to be short, need to be practical, and need to be need to know how to attract the attention. That's what it says by lateral and upward communication. So this I show the pictures to differentiate between upwards and downwards communication. So this is downwards. You can see the arrow moving downwards. That's mean from superior to the lower level, and this the arrow upward. That's mean from lower level to the higher level. So this is upward communications.